Okay, if everybody's available, I'll call to order the meeting of the Committee of Infrastructure, this being Wednesday, October 4th, 2023, at 6:18 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. We are calling the meeting to order because allegedly it has been stated that we can verify that we were going to immediately follow the joint meeting of Infrastructure and the Board of Public Works. So, with that said, can my clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Jettie.
Here.
Alderman Gavea.
Here.
Alderman Camo is here. Alderman Dowd.
Present.
And Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
You have 5 in attendance. Also in attendance is Alderman Klee, Alderman Tebow, and Tim Cummings, Administrative Services Director.
Okay, also expected this evening will be John Griffin, CFO for the City of Nashua, and Patty Rogers of the Tax Department. And now we'll open up the meeting to public comment. Anybody from the public would like to speak? Seeing nobody in the audience, we'll close the public comment section. Communications.
There are none.
Unfinished business.
There is none.
And new business resolutions.
Mr. Chair, before us is R23-164, authorizing the sale of...
Well, I would like to, can I please have a little executive privilege? We are expecting Mr. Griffin, and I'm sure for members who do have questions. So, without objection, can we go out of order and then discuss 023-060?
Absolutely.
Can you read it by title? So without objections, we're going ahead. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before us is 023-060, authorizing free holiday parking at meters in Zone 3, which includes the Elm Street and High Street parking garages from December 11th, 2023 through January 1st, 2024. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to recommend final passage.
Okay, there's a motion for final passage. Any discussion on the motion? Alderman Jettie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we do this every year, and it's been a traditional thing. I know we're probably going to do it again this year, but just out of curiosity, does anybody know, how this works out as far as, how much money we lose as a result of this, and does it really attract business? Do more people come downtown? And also I know in the past there have been complaints by some of the merchants that that some other merchants fill up the spaces. Employees fill up the spaces, and the potential customers can't get downtown. Do we have any? Does anybody have any? Is anybody able to comment on that or have any information about that, about those issues?
Director Cummings, would you like to take a stab at that, please?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Tim Cummings, Administrative Services Director. As you all know, Director Hannum now oversees parking. She couldn't be with us this evening, and since I had a couple meetings on the docket tonight, I graciously said I would do my best imitation of her. With that being said, relative to the questions at hand, I believe there's a FISCO note on the legislation before you, and that's accompanying every piece of legislation. And I'm pretty sure in years past they've identified the loss of revenue that is projected to occur. I will double check that. I don't recall what that figure is off the top of my head.
$4,600.
I'm sorry. Is it written?
It said yes. It said estimated $4,600 or less in lost meter revenue.
So hopefully that addresses the first concern raised. Relative to the policing of this and the potential abuse, I think that's a fair observation that's made. I know the parking staff, diligently looks at the area and does the best it can relative to enforcement. I know during this time of year they are particularly aware of people who stay maybe longer than they should. All I can say is on this particular piece of legislation, I know the merchants warmly embrace this piece of legislation. I hear about it at Downtown Improvement Committee in particular. as well as other small businesses on Main Street that they look forward to it. So I think the anxieties can be relaxed relative to that front as well. So I would ask for your recommendation this evening. This is a piece of legislation that in years past actually was done at a first and second reading. Because we had some more time this year, I was glad to see it actually get put through the committee process, but by the amount of endorsers and sponsors of the legislation, I believe that this is a piece of legislation that is warmly received year over year, and I would like to make sure we continue on that trajectory. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. Further questions to Director Cummings or on the matter? Alderman Dowd.
I would just think that it's self-regulating, because if the businesses allow their employees to park there and their customers can't park there, they're not gonna make money. So, you know, I think they understand that they shouldn't have their employees parking in these spaces so that customers can come in. And I think we've done it every year for many years as a benefit to the people, so they can go down, shop, and not have to pay for parking, and in a holiday tradition, and I've never heard a complaint from any business.
Thank you, thank you, Alderman Dowd.
Thank you, Alderman Dowd. Further comment? Anybody on the committee or not? Seeing none. I'll have to say, Director Cummings, this is timely. This is, I think, the earliest. Sometimes we were behind the proverbial Christmas ornament and pushing us forward. I'm glad we're handling it in a timely manner this year. And it's sort of like, in a way, our little gift to people, so it's a good thing. So hopefully support our downtown with the shops and everything, and enjoy the Christmas spirit. We'll have it soon decorated, I'm sure, and it'll look just grand like every year. And if I could give the shout out to, let's not forget the potential for the holiday stroll, something I personally do look forward to every year. My family enjoys it. I'm sure yours do too. Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time,
Thank you.
we're going to go back into the agenda. If I may, Mr. Clerk, before we get into it, after we read it by title, we're going to have some brief discussion on it, but I want the board to keep in mind, this has to do with families' personal finances and the like, and if you put yourself into those people's shoes, do you really necessarily want it to be discussed in the open format? So therefore, I did include on the agenda the possibility to go into a non-public type of session. But I will present the question, we'll present it openly. I think once you hear the brief explanation of why we're doing this, I think hopefully we may be able to avoid, but I'll let that be the committee's call. So at that, I'll welcome Mr. Griffin and Ms. Rogers up forward, and can the clerk introduce the ordinance, please?
Yes, Mr. Clerk, Mr. Chair, before us is R-23-164, authorizing the sale of a tax-deeded property located at 1 Edward Street. And Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to recommend final passage.
Mr. Griffin, you heard the recommendation for final passage. Can you give us a brief explanation, please? You or Ms. Rogers, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Griffin, CFO Treasurer Tax Collector. With me is actually Ms. Barry, Patty Barry. She's the Deputy Treasurer, Deputy Tax Collector. And she has worked very hard on this piece of legislation with the Corporation Council. So I would let her describe what we're trying to accomplish here. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. So this was a property that was taken by tax deed back in April for non-payment of property taxes. The goal is to try and work with the former owners to repurchase and keep them in their home. We have been working with this family since July on getting a mortgage and repurchasing. So we need approval to repurchase resell to the former owners. There's one change in this, though, that it was the husband who was on the prior deed, and the person that is getting the mortgage is the wife. So we would have to put the property back into the wife's name. So that is what this legislation is asking for permission to do that.
Okay. Questions on the motion or the discussion that was presented? Seeing none. Oh, yes, Alderman Jettie.
Just for clarification, my understanding is that the property is being purchased by the wife of the previous owner, and she's paying us whatever taxes are owed and whatever expenses we've incurred.
Correct.
So the city ends up getting repaid everything that's owed.
Correct.
And the property owner gets the property back.
Yep. Correct.
Just want to clarify that, and that's
Okay.
fine as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Okay. Further comment or discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing that, we do have an item that is tabled, but I think that's still being under investigation. That's a Deerwood Drive property. Moving on to general discussion. Anybody got anything good want to discuss for the group? Seeing none?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes, Alderman Jettie.
Yes, thank you. I did want to say that I reviewed the parking ordinance very quickly, and I see it only pertains to Zone 3, correct? So, Zone 3 is not Main Street, it's not the prime parking spots. And the controversy I was thinking of in the past had to do with different merchants
Yeah.
resenting, other people's employees parking on Main Street. This has nothing to do with Main Street, it's just Zone 3. And just to clarify for the public, the free parking is Zone 3, and through you, could I ask, someone to come up and remind us where Zone 3 is, what that consists of?
Absolutely. Director Cummings, would you be so kind?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. So Zone 3 could be thought of as the most outer areas of where we have for paid parking in the downtown. Maple Street, Elm Street, Pine Street, Pine Street Extension, part of the Cottage Street. So if you think about the furthest outskirts areas, that's really, the Zone 3 parking areas, and I'm sorry? Quincy Street. So that kind of hopefully gives you a snapshot as to the area that we're talking about. To the Alderman Jettie's point, we are not talking about Main Street per se, because that's Zone 1. And yes, that is where we typically have heard about the concerns about abuse happening on Main Street relative to employees or owners of businesses parking on Main Street for maybe a little too long. So, thank you.
Okay, while we have you here, Director Cummings, I think there's a follow-up coming. Yes, Alderman
Does it
Jettie.
include the garages?
I believe it does, yes. I'm going back from memory, but I believe Zone 3 does include garages, yeah.
It's in the title of the
They're
ordinance.
listed in it, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and while we have you there, Director Cummings, yeah, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. But if, to Alderman Jettie's point, if somebody wanted to bring it up, this is on the city website with the zones and the parking zones.
Absolutely.
So somebody could explore this, hopefully easy enough that they could see the different zones.
You could, right on the parking webpage, there's a zoning map. I'm sorry, Alderman Clee, did I take your thunder?
Yeah,
No.
Alderman Clegg?
No, you did not. I was going to say exactly what you said. If you go into the government parking, and it says downtown parking map, and it's quite clear, it gives all the different colors of zone 1, 2, and 3, and 3 is the green zone, so. It's the library lot over by that area, too.
And I think our chairman very astutely knew this, and he did a wonderful job teasing it out for the public's benefit.
Thank you. Okay, anything else, general discussion? Seeing none, we'll close that portion to, we already did public comment, correct?
Not the second one.
Not a second one? Okay, we'll open up the second public comment. Anybody would like to come forward, but however, not seeing anybody in the chamber, we'll open and close public comment. Remarks by Alderman. Seeing none, there's no reason to go into public. I appreciate everybody. We could have very easily have done that, but I think we were all in agreement with the Edward Street property, so thank you very much. Which brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is everybody's favorite, which is Alderman Como.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll call the meeting adjourned at 6:35.